Okay, so anybody who wants to move a little closer can. It would be great. But I'm going to try to project my voice. I know there's an air conditioner here. Now, first, I want to thank Polo for allowing us to do this reading that's been going on for 19 years here at the Revival Bar. Okay. This is where we are, the Revival Bar. Okay, no questions about that. The second thing is Anthony Vigorito and Alan Braverman, my two pals from Bklyn, who I met recently, but we seem to be brothers in our past and in our lives. And then the audience, the poets and the friends who have come here for this reading. I appreciate this, and I think you'll have a good time as a result of our efforts here. So I'll just begin with, I got a question when I sent out invitations about this reading. One of the questions was, what is the cover and the dress code for the Revival Bar? And my answer was, dress code? There is no dress code. This is the Revival Bar. We are the boys from Bklyn. What do you think? In fact, there is no code at all. There's a $3 contrib, or whatever you can afford, and the one drinking minimum, ginger ale, $2, no ice, your choice, or churse. Hope to see you. The burn, ay, 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 from Bath Beach, not Bad Beach. Okay. So now I'm going to start with a poem that goes back to the beginning of time. Doug read a poem, he mentioned the sky, and I think this goes back to the sky. Before we spoke, we now speak in prose, but before that, maybe as infants we spoke in poetry, and before that we made sounds. And the sounds were the beginning of poetry, and before that was, according to Wordsworth, clouds of glory. Maybe these sounds were made during the clouds of glory. Now, in my family, there was a kind of lore about the sounds that my brother and I made, and this is the poem about the sounds before poetry. It's called Before Poetry. Kakiga, that's what he said, my brother, age 2. Kakiga was chewing gum. This was before Lady Gaga, before people went gaga, before go-go dancing. That's what he said. This was before people were cocky, before American Idol, before Donald Trump, before Jerry Springer, before Dirty Dancing. This was cocky before Howell, before they arrested Lenny Bruce. Wawa, that's what he said. Wawa was water. Then he said ha. Ha was light. Wawa, was he thirsty? Wawa was water. This was before the sky. What is water? Are we water? Does water want us? What is light? Water is invisible. Light is invisible. Do fish see water? Do we see light? Ha. Ha ha. This was before Longfellow, before Hiawatha, before Evangeline, before Princess Minnie, ha-ha. Long before this, I said imami. Imami was ice cream. This was before Haagen-Dazs, before Rocky Road. Imami was what Eve gave Adam, before tonsils, before Adam's apple, before the snake. In the beginning, there was Wawa. In the beginning, there was ha. Okay. Now, the next poem is called Underground Poetry Reading. It doesn't apply to anybody at this reading. This is a bit of a parody on underground poetry readings. And it was actually part of the inspiration was Alan Braverman's poem that he read. I heard him read this in Bklyn. The last line sort of comes from that. This would be, what would happen if Frank O'Hara met William Shakespeare? Something like this might come out. Underground poetry reading after Frank O'Hara and William Shakespeare. Now, Frank O'Hara wrote a poem called Why I Am Not a Painter, and some of the lines come from that. Oh, the prose, withering heights and lows, No one knows. Who knows? Is it prose, prosody, parody? Poet and listener are, who cares? As long as it goes and goes. The poet knows, the poet's knows, as long as Polonius is long-winded. As long as the poem is long and the words come and go and the lines come and go and the days, pretty soon it is a whole page of words, not lines. And another page. There should be so much more of words in life, the poem in life. Will they finish? Are never finished until the ghost of Hamlet appears and proclaims, "Get thee to a workshop." Okay, now this is going to be about mythic figures of Brooklyn, legends of Brooklyn, and legends of New York City. Now, Joe Rollino was a legend of Coney Island. He not only performed in the sideshows, he went on tours with the vaudeville circuit and so on. He was considered the strongest man in the world for his size. He could lift refrigerators and ovens on his back. He could crack quarters with his teeth. Ballad of Mighty Joe Rollino. Fold your jacket over Joe. Joe Rollino, strongest man, Coney Island, strongest man in the kitchen. Lifted oven on finger, one finger balanced oven. Overhead, forks bent by Joe, spoons bent by the teeth of Joe. No can opener required. Swallowed albacore whole from can. Chrome Toastmaster toaster, old bagels never popped up? Yup. Joe touched blue wires and laughed. Fold your jacket over Joe. Ladle not required, drank soup boiling in cupped palms. Spatula not required, flip pancakes sizzling, calloused digits. Flip pancakes, bacon, boiled eggs. Strongman, juggler, master chef. January 21st in the year 2010, 6 a.m. Joe was struck down while crossing Bay Ridge Parkway by Ford Windstar minivan at the age 104.
Wow.
Fold your jacket over Joe. Now, Anthony and some of the people here remember Steeplechase, Funny Face. Now, I'm lucky enough to have lived in the era of the golden age of Coney Island and Brighton Beach, but there were dark things there too, and people who were perceptive noticed things that maybe other people didn't notice. And this is about that. It's called Steeplechase, Funny Face. 1953, summer, Coney Island, half-eaten Nathan's Frankfurter lying in gutter, half-eaten man slumped over curb, wonder wheel, roar of the cyclone, bobsled, tornado, echoing Mermaid Avenue, Neptune Avenue, Surf Avenue, Gravesend Bay. Crowd, sweat, grease, sand, skin, thighs entwined under shadow of boardwalk, thin pencil lines of light stretching out. Was she waving all her life? Were we listening? Parachutes floating down, ladies' dresses billowing high, steeplechase clowns chasing them with clackers, slappers. We laughed, oh how we laughed, that steaming summer, 1953. Now this is about Brighton Beach. Brighton Beach, when I go to these places, I see them as they are and I see them as I remember them. So the two mix, they're kind of ghosts of places that I've been to. And this begins with, I address Brighton Beach in this poem, and in the last part I take a bike ride along Ocean Parkway. There's a bike path that runs along from Prospect Park to Brighton Beach. Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, Brighton. Beach of white sand, black sky, skin and salt and sweat, heaving, twirling, torsos twining the boardwalk. Where have you gone? Brighton, seething, swearing, leaping, baboon, naked muzzle, banana peels, hips, thighs, elbows, mambo, your howl a whimper, the waves whimper on your white sand. Gone, gone. Your skeleton chute still towers the rim, your wheel still whirls and wonders, but your skin crinkled, your shout a thin whisper, your eyes shot with blood. Get up, throw down your curb, chase us. I bike along the path, zenith to zero, to Brighton, past Hispanic mothers, babes suckling, chickens clucking in crates, past Russian granite faces pasted to chessboards, Hasidim, black cloaks flapping, tallis, white shawls swirling the wind, seagulls praying the wind wailing my back, leaning 45 degrees, right angle to zero, Brighton, past black pennies, peels of orange, seagulls, white, zooming past zero. Thank you. Now, I was good friends with a visual artist. I'm not going to say her name. We used to go gallivanting around the old village. And I wrote a poem to her. We might have had something of a falling out. We didn't see each other for 12 years, and we met on the F train and promised to get together, and this poem came out of it. In this poem, she's called Sita. Sita is a Hindu goddess. Sita. Sita, you marched with martyrs. In theory, Sita, in theory. Jousted with Picasso's windmill on your palette, Sita, on your screen. Trapezoids on your canvas, turn to tigers, flames on Christie Street flickered across the wires, touched your sizzling cords, cords of flame. We wove shadows in warrens of invisible gardens on grove. We wove abstract patterns on blighted faces behind tenements and alleys, on Eldridge and Delancey, painted tulips and turnips on pumpkin skulls. 12 years have passed. We meet on the F line between Lafayette and Essex, underground. Agree to meet in ghosts of coffee shops on Bleecker and McDougal. Never found. You still worship tableau in the shadow of your atelier, floating above the ground. Never saw you again. Perhaps 12 years will pass, and we will meet at right angles, underground. Now, I was lucky enough to be born into an era in the late 50s and early 60s. The greatest jazz artists used to perform at the coffee houses.
I'm sorry, I got to answer this. This is great, but...
Okay. The great artists such as Thelonious Monk, Miles Davis, the Adderley Brothers, you could see them and hear them for a glass of beer at places like the 5 Spot and the Half Note. Metropole. We couldn't wait to get our draft cards, not to go to the Army, but to be able to get in and hear these great, fantastic artists. Now, this is called Monk for Thelonious. His name was Thelonious Sphere Monk. I don't know which part of this is real and which he made up. This poem consists of 15 titles of his songs that he wrote and some other jazz artists. You might recognize them. He used to wander around the piano while the other soloists played. That was one thing. And the other thing is he got arrested for marijuana charges. And when you got arrested in those days, you had your cabaret license suspended and you couldn't perform for 6 months, a year and a half. Imagine if we had our poetry license expired by the police. They come in here and take it away from us. Anyway, Monk for Thelonious. July 1957, 5 Spot, Monk Sphere, where you wandering? Stop, space between notes, jagged slash, flash, but the space, twisted elbow, black fruit, swollen, Bemsha swing, black and tan fantasy, epistrophe, angling in space, right angle to zero, straight, no chaser, I mean you. Little Rudy Tooty, trinkle, tinkle, little star, pirouetting brilliant corners in the crook of the stage. Well, you needn't, but you did. Spinning off minor, ozoned, antic, rhythming, crisscross green chimneys, blue monk, only the cop could stop, evidence 4 in 1. Oh, Monk, circle the spotlight, walk up the stairs, turn out the light, walk up the stars. Okay, I'm going to read this poem. It's called Erato on the R Train. Now, Erato is the muse of love poetry. Some people say she's no longer here, but I saw her get on the R Train. Erato on the R Train. She did not want her songs in water and soap. She believed in magnetism. She believed in air. She passed over the gap, ivy wreathing her hair, assumed her mask, her pensive pose, the pose of our forgetting. Some shadows fell, some shadows rose, some doors opened, some doors closed. We paid our fare, none would dare approach her staff, pointing to the lyre, listen to her lyre placed upon the pyre. The coach scrolled through the black passage, the moon was gone, we scrolled new phases, spun new phrases, scanned new tricks, Sado, Maso, dominatrix. The doors opened, she departed, none would follow, none would dare touch the strands of flaming hair. Magnetic folds from her hair pulsing, static in the air. We assumed our pose, the mask of gestures, the frieze along the tracks, melded to the tunnel walls. Thank you. Now, the unattainable women of our childhood, Anthony and Alan would know about this. These were the girls on the boosters, the cheerleaders. They were absolutely off limits to guys like us. But even there were beautiful intellectual women, such as Barbara Ballas, and we still talk about her. And Eric Ober, when we get together, we schmooze about her. We can't forget her. Now, we haven't seen her since 1960, probably. This is called Ober and the Golden Ballas. Here's to our friend Rick Ober, who manages by gum to stay sober. As he regales us with memories of the raging phallus, Linda Thurm and Barbara Ballas, of the well-endowed and the flat, the could have been, the should have been, the standing pat, of stumps and shticks with schneids and germs who drool with thoughts of Linda's Thurms, of dreams so firm and fully packed but lack the knack to crack the sack. Oh, bring me my club, my silver chalice, I'll climb the hill and mount the palace, the colonial mansion, the golden phallus, I'll blast the myth of Barbara Ballas. Okay, I'm just going to read two more poems. Morris Fischler came over, well, actually his wife, Polly, came over on a boat with my mother and her family from Poland in 1912. They came to Ellis Island, Lower East Side. Eventually, they ended up in Bensonhurst. Paulie married Morris Fischler, and they were like uncles and aunts to us. And this is about Morris Fischler and my memory of his passing away, and it's a memory that's haunted me for my whole life. It's called Morris Fischler, as I recall. Morris Fischler collapsed and died on the factory floor. He died on the factory floor. Morris collapsed and died, so I was told when I was 10 years old. He died on the factory floor, felt queasy that morning when he went out the door. When I was 10 years old, he worked very hard every day, so I was told. Felt queasy that morning when he went out the door. Morris was born in Poland, the Poland of family law. He worked hard every day, so I was told. Lifted boxes on his back till he grew old. Morris was born in Poland, the Poland of family law. He was bent, sweat poured out of every pore, lifted boxes on his back till he grew old. That morning he went out, he felt hot, he felt cold. He was bent, sweat poured out of every pore. I was a child of 10, waiting for father at the door. That morning he went out, he felt hot, he felt cold. I ran out to tell him the news when I was 10 years old. I was a child of 10, waiting for father at the door. I wanted to tell him, the first to tell what happened on the factory floor. I ran out to tell him the news when I was 10 years old. My lips curled up instead of down. To this day, I still recall. I wanted to tell him, the first to tell what happened on the factory floor. I smiled, my lips curled up. My father turned white, as I recall. My lips curled up instead of down. To this day, I still recall. I told my lips, stay down, as I waited at the door. I smiled, my lips curled up. Father turned white, as I recall. Morris collapsed and died, so I was told. I told my lips, stay down, as I waited at the door. Morris Fischler collapsed and died on the factory floor. And I'm going to end with this poem called The Boy Struck by Lightning 3 Times. Now, I've been asked, after reading this poem, who is the boy struck by lightning? Well, the boy, this is an autobiographical poem, but sometimes when you write an autobiographical poem in the third person, you're free to say things you would ordinarily say. Now, this poem was inspired by the death of Brant Lyon, who died on May 12th of last year, and a good friend of mine, Evi Nikolaidou, died within hours of him, and this poem came out a couple of days later. Okay, this is The Boy Struck by Lightning 3 Times. Emerged from his mother's womb, they cut the umbilical cord. Hoi koi, he screamed. Sucking his mother's breast, he gurgled, hey, coo. Hey was perhaps hello. Coo was coo. He aged. At 3, he said, haiku. At 5, he thought, I will write a haiku. He did not know thought. He did not know write. But he knew this, write a haiku in his skin. The Boy Struck by Lightning, first time, August 1945, the year of Hiroshima, Mon Amour. But he did not know this. Light pulsed up his spine. Boom! The sky sparkled. Light rained down. He was holding his mother's hand. The L station, West End Line, Bay Parkway Station, Brooklyn. She receded into the gap between earth and sky. He fell to his knees. The earth shook. He was a speck in the universe. As he crawled to his mother, the first line of verse, the first line of the haiku flashed. Swerve of light, sears, slits. He crawled and crawled. The gap between earth and sky melded, or did it? He felt his mother's hand, but all was not well. Do not go up high, high in the chute or the cyclone, you will never come down. Do not float through space, there madness lies. He touched cracks, gaps, chose lucky numbers. 4 and 8 equal death. Too long to explain why. Line up your socks, measure your breath, cover the gaps, do your homework. He was still crawling toward his mother, up on the L, Bay Parkway Station, West End Line. The line, some say it begins at Hellgate, runs from Gravesend Bay to Stillwell Avenue. After that, the mermaids call. The Boy Struck by Lightning, second time, September 1952, the year of the Manchurian Candidate. He did not know this. Light pulsed up his spine, the sky sparkled, light rained down. As he remembered it, the black shirts were after him. They wanted to kick him in the groin many times, Auschwitz, Buchenwald. But it was only Barry Tatarsky who wanted to beat him up to impress the motorcycle black jacket gang, the chain and pegged pants crowd, the Bath Beach Boys, guys with butts between ear and skull, Miguel, Dominic Basile, Bobby Papasino, Frank Buckenfuso. Again, the gaping space between earth and sky. He was crawling, still crawling. Will he touch his mother's hand? The second line of the haiku flashed, dangling line of space and time. Again, fill the gaps, do your homework, measure your breath, avoid 4 and 8, line up your socks, no use. The Boy Struck by Lightning, third time, October 1962, the year of revelations. He did not know this. Light pulsed up his spine, the sky sparkled, light rained down. This time he died, but didn't. He was one of the walking dead, of this world, but not of this world. As others saw him, he was sentimental, nostalgic, venerated the past, went back to the old neighborhood, searching for himself. But he was dead, useless to search. He was riding a phantom carriage. He was crawling toward his mother on the boards of the Bay Parkway station between Gravesend Bay and Stillwell. He saw the verse from beginning to end, all in a moment, the same moment, the moment he was born, the moment he died. Swerve of light, sears, slits, dangling line of space and time, folds back to a dot. Thank you.